Ojo, Mussolini, all of it. They had a spirit of the age in which people began to buy in to their big ideas.
Oh, hang on, Louis. You're just gonna have to wait.
Start out the totalitarians, right? They always start out whetting your appetite. You're going to get everything's going to be free. Sounds very much like America today, but you're going to get free education, free food, free everything. It's going to be the labor unions. You're going to love everything that we're doing right now, right? But then later on, the devil is in the details.
Welcome to the program today. My name is Marvin Gonzalez, and I am here with Dr. Thomas Soren and Josh Peck.
Hey, great. Yeah, thank you.
And we have been discussing in the last program his new book, Zeitgeist 2025. And for those of you who might not have watched it, let's do a quick review on really the title, Zeitgeist 2025, where you're going, how did you put yourself out there? Share with us, which I think is kind of fun and exciting. Share with our audience the background here.
Yeah, well, I would really encourage people to go back in your archives, watch that.
Hi, Dolly. Good to see you.
Different illustrations. You know, the title Zeitgeist is a compound German word. It simply means the spirit of the age. The word Zeit means time. The word Geist means ghost or spirit. You put them together, it's the spirit of the age. And so, in epochal moments throughout history, whether it was the rise of Nazi Germany or Marxism or whatever, Jojo, Mussolini, all of it, they had a spirit of the age in which people began to buy in to their big ideas. And of course, all these guys always start out, the totalitarians, right? They always start out whetting your appetite. You're going to get everything's going to be free. Sounds very much like America today, but you're going to get free education, free food, free everything. It's going to be the labor unions. You're going to love everything that we're doing right now, right? But then later on, the devil is in the details. And also under some of those, you know, you've witnessed the largest number of people being murdered, assassinated. Well, we know that's coming again. We know that under Antichrist, there is going to be a zeitgeist. People are going to buy into it. They're going to worship him, the Bible says, as if, and then eventually he'll actually present himself as a god. So the title of the book, Zeitgeist 2025, is Tom Horn's way of saying we are living right now through a cultural revolution in the United States that does seem to be indicative of what would need to happen in order to pave the way for the arrival of Antichrist as well as the arrival of a false apostate religion. All of those things we see being developed right now. By the way, I'll tell you, Mondo, how I got on this. And that is that I had written the book, The Messenger. The Messenger is talking about NASA's original date for the arrival of the asteroid Apophis. They gave the date, Friday the 13th of all days, right? April 2029. And now they're saying that it's only going to be a mere miss. There are other scientists that are saying they're playing a trick on you, America. You better wake up, because this has a lot more likelihood of striking Earth than what they are admitting. Scientists are saying that. But it wasn't until that book came out that we made a discovery. I was actually doing a show, and Derek Gilbert was interviewing me, and he said, well, wormwood happens in the middle of that 7-year Great Tribulation period. So if we was to take NASA's date and back up 3.5 years, we might come somewhere close to approximating the start of the 7-year tribulation period. Well, that lands in October 2025. But not just that. It lands literally right in the middle of the Feast of Tabernacles, which many Bible scholars have connected with the second coming of Christ. I go into all those reasons in the book. 10 days before that, the Feast of Trumpets, which is directly connected to the rapture of the church. Paul saying, you know, we shall not all sleep, but we, at the last trump, we shall be revived and we'll rise up into the heavens to meet the Lord in the air. 120 days before that is the Feast of Pentecost. Pentecost has also been tied to the rapture of the church, for reasons that Gary Stearman has gone into in different magazine articles, Watcher magazine. But the number 120 is also biblical numerology for the end of mankind. So I just got to looking at all of this, and I thought, now, is that just a coincidence? Is there anything else curious about the year 2025? And that was ultimately all these different discoveries started stacking up until finally I thought, well, I've got to write about this. I've got to talk about this. And the end result was Zeitgeist 2025. But one other quick thing, and maybe Josh can say something about this. I was visiting with Josh one day, and I said, okay, one thing, coincidence, two things, starts getting it, three things, five things. I was like, how can all of this concatenation of events be pointing towards nothing? It's all just a coincidence. And then he blows my mind and he said, and did you know this, which I didn't, that the Essenes predicted 2,200 years ago that mankind would enter its final age in the year 2025. I'm like, oh, you are kidding. Okay, you must write that chapter. Of course, Dr. Ken Johnson, who you frequently have on your program, did a lot of that research too. Him and Josh have been working together. Josh's new book is coming out right now called The Lost Prophecies of Qumran.
Yeah.
And then Ken Johnson.
Oh, I heard they got a strong tsunami warning as well.
New book on the mystery of the Essenes, which examines a lot more of that information. But it's going to blow people's minds when they see how accurate the Essenes were. Predicting that a king would rise over Israel by the name of Herod, that would turn bad during the age of the arrival of the Messiah. I mean, really? And this is in print from 200 years before Christ. Discoveries that have only recently been made. So this is why it would be brand new information, revolutionary information for a lot of people.
One of the words that you hear a lot, which is appropriate, is this idea of convergence. I mean, we've had scripture, we have prophecy, it's the inspired word of God. We've had that for a long time. And yet the events that we've been watching and the discoveries, 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and even all the further research is bringing it all together in a very exciting time. I mean, the last couple of years, just in our life, is like, wow. I mean, I've been watching prophecy for 30 years, and nothing's been this intense. Give a little background, if you will, on the Essenes. People might not know exactly who they are, but the 2025 dates and how that converges in on the rest of the research.
Sure, absolutely. So the Essenes were a third group of Jewish people around the time of Christ. But what's amazing is they had this whole calendar system that's totally different than what we use today, but it was also prophetic. When you match up that calendar system with the Bible, it seems to match perfectly. So what's really cool about that, they saw 7,000 years as the totality of human history, from the creation
Hey, Phil, good to see you, mate.
Of the world until the Edenic state or the new creation. So there's supposed to be 7,000 years for sin to kind of get taken care of. And at this 7,000 year period is split up into what's called ages. Each age is 2,000 years. And so there are 3.5 ages. What's interesting are these ages seem to, in certain events, seem to be cyclical. Not as much in exact dates. It's really hard to pin down exact dates, but in events that are cyclical. So, for example, in the final 50 years, the final jubilee of what's called the Age of Torah, which was the 2,000 years between the call of Abraham to roughly the destruction of the temple. It would be 75 AD. There were a couple of things that happened after that, but in that time, that was the Age of Torah. That last jubilee, that last 50 years, is where you have Jesus' entire earthly ministry. That kind of thing happened in the age of creation, which was the first age. The end of that age also culminated because you had the Tower of Babel incident, and then that led to the call of Abraham. So it stands to reason, maybe we know we have a lot of prophecy that still needs to be fulfilled. Maybe that will be fulfilled in sometime in these 50 years. What's really coincidental, right, is when Tom was telling me about the Apophis Wormwood connection, I started looking into it myself and reading his book, and there are 3 times that asteroid is supposed to fly by Earth. Every single one is within that 50-year period. There's one in 2029, one in 2036, and one in 2068. And it's really funny, too, because you can do the math on all those dates, and it works out to some 7-year thing. So to me, it's too much of a coincidence. I think we're heading to some really interesting times.
And I would do one other thing on the scene before if you want to move forward on some of the other stuff. In the book, not only did they predict the arrival of Herod,
picking up all day, Mood, don't stop.
the Messiah would arrive when he did, that he would
Yeah,
raise the
pick up,
dead,
don't
which is
stop.
not even doctrine taught in the Old Testament. He would die in 32 AD. They predicted that, which is when he died, they said he would be for the Gentiles as well as for the Jews. He would begin the age of grace, which is a New Testament term. They foresaw that as coming. They said a Benjamite would explain everything to the Gentiles. His knowledge would be in the synagogue of the Gentiles, obviously talking about the Apostle Paul. They even said that at the end of time, that their voices would speak up from out of the dust, which could certainly be saw as the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? That knowledge would come back to mankind again. But here's one other thing they did, and I want people to think about what Joe Biden has done in Afghanistan and the empowering of the Taliban and ISIS-K, now probably one of the most well-equipped, most powerful military forces on earth in the hand of jihadists, because we left billions,
$80 billion
of dollars in advanced American military hardware behind for them to use probably against us. But guess what else the scenes prophesied for this period of time leading up to 2025? The rise of Islam, when Islam didn't even exist. They predicted it, that they would be instigated.
Well, especially the last few weeks.
Of the end times, and they actually named Hamas, which also did not exist. Again, naming that by name as people who are going to play a role in the end time instigation leading up to the Battle of Armageddon. So I would tell people, well, definitely get Josh's book, definitely read Zeitgeist 2025, because this is really cutting edge. This is not warmed over tablet.
Yeah.
This is really kind of edgy, breaking news, if you will, having to do with end times Bible prophecy.
There's so much more background to really get seen, but I had to do a research paper in seminary where in Matthew 11, they come to Jesus and John the Baptist is asking, are you the one that's to come? And you compare his answers, and his answers are in order, specifically out of Quranic material.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily, there's a couple of them certainly in the Bible, but the order that he lists are exactly. And you're like, I remember, going through this one. This is incredible that these guys in their really what we would call secular literature or non-canonical literature, they nail it.
Yeah.
And so there is something here that is part of the background that is awesome. It's cool, and I think God is bringing it all together. As we continue to go on for the book, one of the things that I found in there, which some people might not know, let's talk about some of the history of America in the sense that God has allowed the spirit of the age. I love that terminology because we do know, Scripture tells us, that Satan isn't just sitting around waiting for his time of worship, dragon worship. We see that in Revelation. He's not sitting around doing nothing.
I'm not doing
He's
this all
extremely
day.
active, not just with
I'm not
his
doing this all
angelic,
day, right?
angelic
Right,
cohorts
son of a
that
big
walk
yeah.
and all that, but he's active in his followers. We know that Ephesians 2 says that the world, is by nature they're children of wrath, that they are under the power of the prince of the air. How has he revealed his playbook, which he's hoping will come to pass, really in the history of America? It's just awesome in here to see that. Kind of share, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, there is probably more than any book I have ever written to peek behind the veil, right? At what was going on in early American history. Most Americans, certainly most Christians, don't know that as many as 44 of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. Not Freemasons like you might think of them today. These were men who were being heavily influenced by European Freemasonry. And I'll tell you why. Because in Europe at that time, there was this idea that had been put forward by Sir Francis Bacon. He wrote a book that became very popular called The New Atlantis. It was a utopian novel. But what did this book imagine? Well, his thesis, if you will, was that at one time Atlantis was real, had been written about by Plato and Critias and Antinous, like 300 years before Christ. And that this society had prospered and done fabulous because it was an occult democracy. And meaning by that they were working in tandem with the ancient gods. And so long as they honored the ancient gods, the gods in turn worked with them to establish this great, powerful nation. Once they turned their back on the gods, they started falling into decay, and finally they're swallowed up, according to Plato, beneath the sea. Well, Bacon's book imagined the creation of a new Atlantis. That's the title of the book. We're going to build an occult democracy that works in harmony with these ancient supernatural entities. And by honoring and blessing them, they're going to turn and give us their energy, and they're going to help us. Which, by the way, is why all throughout the U.S. capital city, every time a cornerstone was laid, you see guys like George Washington, the 33rd degree Freemason, with his full Masonic guard, the all-seeing eye, Horus Osiris, is on his chest. And they are specifically waiting until astronomical alignments with Virgo Isis, the sister wife of Osiris, which is very much incorporated on the Great Seal of the United States, until we are in conjunction with certain alignments. And many historians, including Freemason historians, 33rd degree Freemasons, have written that that was being done because we wanted to make sure that we were bringing into existence buildings and structures and streets and the layout and everything else at a time that would be pleasing to the gods of antiquity. Now, anybody who thinks that I'm making some of that stuff up can do it for themselves. For instance, in the book, they'll learn how you can go to Google and type in just the title, The Most Approved Plan. You might want to add Thomas Jefferson to that. And then only click on the article that is on official U.S. government websites, right? And you will read where in the 1700s, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington.
No way.
Now we're designing a great seal. We've signed the Declaration of Independence. We need a capital city for this new nation.
I'm not down again. I'm not picking up. Come on.
They advertised a designing challenge, a contest. And so any architectural firms in the United States, across Europe, France, whatever, that wanted to participate, you could, pitch your plan for how this capital city is going to be laid out. So they get all these different submissions. But if you read the article on the U.S. government website, the Most Approved Plan, it says, but at the end of the day, Thomas Jefferson rejected all of the plans. Why? It answers the question. It literally says this, because he wanted the U.S. capital city to be designed according to the old Roman pantheon and dedicated to all pagan gods. That's what it says on the U.S. government website. Dedicated to all pagan gods. Well, once you know that, then this Atlantean scheme makes sense. They wanted an occult democracy that's working with the gods. Go inside the U.S. Capitol Dome. Look up. What do you see? The 4,400 or 4,664 square foot famous painting by Italian painter Constantino Brumidi called the Apotheosis of George Washington. Apotheosis means to become a god. What god is he becoming? Again, Freemasons, Walt Whitman, they all said he's becoming Osiris, which is the Greek version of Apollo. The Egyptian version of Apollo. He's becoming the Osiris of the afterlife. But look at the heaven that he is rising up into. There's not a single Christian symbol there. Jesus isn't there. Michael the Archangel isn't there. There's no Bible sitting on the arm of the throne that Washington is sitting on as he's rising up into the heavens. He is literally surrounded by pagan gods and demons. But what are they doing? Like there's one of the images in that painting that shows ISIS dragging the transatlantic telegraph cable.
You hook
So
down
she's
there, I'm
playing
not
her
picking you
role.
back
She's
up.
part of the Atlantean scheme. She's helping us with the development of our country. You look at other images, and that same thing just goes on and on and on. And so look down below that painting. Well, maybe we'll get into that in a moment, or maybe even in a different program. 72 pentagrams.
Yep.
The U.S. Capitol Dome is literally a Antichrist version of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. If we have time, I will explain that. But anyway, what Thomas Jefferson wanted is what we built. And that's why when you visit Washington, D.C., and you walk out into the mall and you're observing the domed pregnant belly of Isis that is sitting right behind you, you look this direction, and what do you see? The largest obelisk of its kind in the world, 6.666 inches high, 6.66 inches long, each line at the perimeter of the base. It has a Bible bound inside a magic 666 square, which is used for binding, not only binding influences you don't want to affect the nation, but for calling on the second coming of Apollo. Benjamin Franklin, who we talked about
bounding the
last
Bible. Wow.
week, even made his own magic squares for invoking the second coming of these entities. Now, all of the layout of Washington, D.C. is based on the myth of Osiris. And I'll give this to you very quickly. What does that have to do with anything? Okay, the myth of Osiris, the most famous ancient Egyptian myth, was that Osiris's evil brother Set was jealous of him. And guess what he did? He conspired with 72 ruffians to murder Osiris. They chop him into 14 pieces. They throw the pieces into the Nile River. His sister wife Isis searches the banks of the Nile River. So she recovers 13 pieces. The part she can't find is his missing male organ. So she takes and puts his body back together magically. I don't know if she's stitching with thread, but she put his corpse back together. And then she creates a magic obelisk and she affixes it to his epiphallic corpse in place of his male organ. And then she conducts the very first raising of Osiris ceremony. She calls forth the seed of Osiris to rise up through the magic obelisk, emit into her belly. She becomes pregnant. She gives birth to Horus, which is the son of Osiris or the second coming of Osiris, Osiris in flesh. Now, that myth formed the most important of all cosmology all throughout ancient Egypt. And therefore, everywhere you went, if there was a temple, whether it was Amun-Ra, whatever it was, there would be the dome belly of Isis and an obelisk standing in the courtyard on the outside representing that magic. In fact, so important was this that during a festival called Opet. Now, by the way, this is really important and even timely because Egypt, the nation of Egypt, has just announced that they are going to revive the ancient festival of Opet, in which the gods are taken on barges up the Nile River to the temple of Amun-Ra in Karnak, which represented exactly where the pharaoh would go at the inauguration of every new pharaoh. You'd put him on the barge with those gods. He's going up the barge on his way to the largest temple facility ever built. The laity are walking on both sides of the Nile River, and they're celebrating, and they're actually calling on these gods to do favors for them, to reenacting parts of the Osiris-Isis myth. Finally, he arrives there. He disembarks. He goes inside the ever-pregnant belly of Isis, and as he's standing there looking out at the obelisk on the outside, he is surrounded by the magicians of Egypt. And they conduct the raising of Osiris ceremony. Don't forget, the book of Exodus tells us these guys had very powerful cult power. They could mimic almost every miracle that was performed during the Exodus. So they call for the seed of Osiris, come up through the obelisk in the courtyard, emit into the belly of Isis where Pharaoh is standing, and Pharaoh is transmogrified. He goes into the temple of Isis, the man, he comes out, he is the Horus, he is the Osiris, he is God in flesh. And Egypt celebrates because they have divine representation. Now, fast forward to today, I know I'm going to run out of time. At the inauguration of every American president, what is being reenacted? They are conducting, the modern Egyptian magicians are conducting the raising of Osiris.
Hey, boss, good to see you, mate.
While the president is reenacting everything that happened in ancient Egypt that was supposed to incarnate the god Osiris, who the Greeks would call Apollo. Now, why should Americans and why should Christians in particular care about that? Because the prophecy on the Great Seal of the United States of America is derived from the prophecies, the mottos are derived from the prophecies of the ancient Cumae Sibyl, who was the most powerful of the Sibylline oracles for Apollo, if you will, who predict the future, in which she foresaw that when the Novus Ordo Seclorum arrived, while his father usurps the authority of the God of the Bible up in the heavens, Jupiter, Saturn, which is on the front side of the Great Seal of the United States. While his father is doing that, on Earth, Apollo is born and takes his role as the head of the new order of the ages, what we call the New World Order. Now, why should Christians care? Because two places in the New Testament the Bible identifies that Apollo is going to be the spirit that is incarnated into Antichrist. 2 Thessalonians 2:3, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, which is the Greek word Apollo. Revelation 17:8, the beast thou sawest was, and is not, shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. This is literally the raising of Osiris ceremony, and go into perdition, the Greek word again, Apollo. So why should people care? Because the prophecy on the Great Seal of the United States is going to come to pass. The Bible says that it is going to come to pass, and that there is going to be a second coming of this ancient, terrible, horrific pagan entity that is going to be incarnated within the arrival of the man of sin. So we are marching down towards the year 2025, which I do believe it's more likely than not. I'm not a date setter, but I will tell you it's more likely than not, in my opinion, that 2025 represents the start of what we dispensationalists call the Great Tribulation 7-year period.
You know, this is all excellent information, and we're going to take a little break here to show you how you can get this. As I read the book, it's incredible. You will really want to know this, so we're going to be back in a moment.
There's no doubt that you've heard things today that you will likely never hear about in church.
Okay, that show's actually over. Oh, hang on, wrong one.
How do you stay cool in a rental if your landlord won't allow AC installation? It's the size of a small microwave. Cools.
What I mean by second incursion is that there was another Genesis 6 type advent post flood. In other words, another group of angels descended to the earth in a post flood context and committed this.
Do you think we're going to see a repeat of Genesis 6 in the near future?
Yes and no.
Or are we seeing that now?
Yes and no. Yes, in that there will be a similar occurrence in the earth of the same kind of miscegenation that happened in genetic miscegenation.
Hey, Shawnee, good to see you.
Happened in the antediluvian age, but no, in that it will look different. There's going to be some very key differences. I am not one who subscribes to the idea of a second incursion, and what I mean by second incursion is that there was another Genesis 6 type advent post flood. In other words, another group of angels descended to the earth in a post flood context and committed the same trespasses as the watchers in the pre-flood world. I don't completely rule out the possibility of such a scenario, but it's unlikely in my mind for several reasons. So I believe that kind of transgression,
How do I get this going?
something akin to that, will happen again at the end of the age, and that will truly be the second incursion. There's a lot of dispute out there concerning how the offspring of the Watchers made it through the flood.
Right. Yeah, that's something I've been wondering about too. And I know there's a couple popular theories. I have no clue. What are your thoughts? Like Numbers 13:33 says. Yeah.
As far as I can tell, there's 4 possible contingencies.
Okay.
Let's see if I can remember them. The first one is a second incursion. In other words, it happened again, and angels fell again and descended to the earth. They took wives among the children of men in a post-flood context. They copulated with these women, and they produced another race of giants. That to me is the most unlikely, for several reasons. And I'll explain that after I cite the other 3 contingencies. The second contingency would be that the genomics, the genetic trademarks of the offspring of the Watchers, the Nephilimic races, made it through the flood via the genomes of the offspring of Noah, or specifically through their wives. Through
Okay, mermaids are daughters of Poseidon. Surely they can survive the flood. Why couldn't a mermaid survive the flood?
wives of Noah's 3 sons, one of the wives. That's plausible. I don't necessarily subscribe to that, but I can't rule it out either. Just as I can't rule out the
the contingency of a second incursion, although I would put that at the bottom of the list. The two contingencies that I think are most plausible are what I would call the necromancy contingency, which is something that Tom Horn really brought to the forefront when he pointed out that Nimrod began to be a mighty one from the earth. And you can interpret that he began to be a giant, or at the very least that he began to undergo some kind of a genetic transmutation and began to become something other than human. The reason why that transmutation began to occur, if it did indeed begin to occur at all, is unknown. But we can speculate that there was some kind of perhaps necromancy involved, perhaps a reconjuring of the spirits of the Rephaim, of the Nephilimic entities that had perished during the flood. So it would be some kind of sorcery, some kind of necromancy that would be involved, perhaps involving the Tower of Babel affair.
Yeah, Shawnee, I don't think it was Mary who told them that.
We know that you have the Sumerians who were attempting to open the gates to the Absu, to the abyss, and perhaps achieve that endeavor. And so I don't know. It's very misty when you look back at the first civilization, the Sumerians. You look back at the Tower of Babel affair, and you look back at Nimrod. It's very ambiguous. We don't really know a whole lot. We know what we do know is that what was happening in the days of Nimrod was insurrection. That much we know. Nimrod's name means rebel, or to rebel, or we shall rebel. So what marks the advent of the Tower of Babel is insurrection, rebellion. Does that rebellion have something to do with reconjuring these forbidden entities, or trying to bring down entities that were akin to the Watchers, perhaps, or another group of Watchers trying to make contact with non-human entities in other realms? We can speculate that could have been the case, and I think that there are strong indications that is in fact what was happening with the Tower of Babel. But again, we can only conjecture. Right. So that would be the third contingency, in my mind, much more plausible than the other two. But I have a fourth contingency that I think personally is the most plausible because it's the most practical. Mm-hmm. Not many people subscribe to this one. In fact, I hadn't ever heard anyone suggest it before I made a video where I suggest.
Diane, he has a good point. That guy with the AI, he has a good point, I think.
That.
No, I'm not picking up again.
Somebody
no, go away.
Somebody survived the flood. Something, we should say, survived the flood.
No.
Right. Either by going off planet or by going into the interior of the planet. I call this contingency the exiles of Atlantis.
Okay.
And the reason why I believe that this is the most plausible, certainly the most practical scenario, is because if you consult with the myth and legend of the myths and legends of antiquity concerning this great civilization that was destroyed, the antediluvian civilization, this empire, what I call the empire of the gods that existed in the world before the flood, you will find a common thread in all of these different legends that seems to suggest that somebody made it through. Somebody escaped with some of the knowledge. Apart from Noah and his family. And of course, the different legends will record different details concerning the advent of the great cataclysm that destroyed the empire of the gods. For example, the Sumerians name a different individual that's very analogous to Noah and the story of Noah, saving the two of every kind of the different animals and the species and so forth. Whereas other legends won't necessarily contain those specific details, but will have a storyline that is similar. But in many of these accounts, you have somebody surviving by way of divine providence, but then you have almost this concurrent narrative of not somebody necessarily surviving, but somebody escaping. And there are several accounts where that becomes vivid, and you even find indications that somebody escaped into the interior of the earth.
Mhm.
And again, when I say somebody, something, I'm not referencing Noah. Obviously, Noah was made it through the flood by way of the ark and divine providence and divine protection. But then there's this other concurrent narrative of something escaping the flood, not necessarily surviving by providence, but escaping. And you can trace this thread through the myths and legends of antiquity, and especially as they relate to the mystery schools. Knowledge made it through. The flood to the other side into the post-flood context by a surreptitious means. So either again somebody went off-world, off-planet, or went into the interior of the planet and was able to thereby escape annihilation.
I did write a book that just came out called The Return of the Watchers: Ancient Nephilim Technology Revealed, and this is what the whole thing is about. Right now, it is available at prophecywatchers.com. Prophecywatchers.com. L.A. Marzulli, my very good friend, wrote the foreword. My very good friend, Dr. Larry Olison, wrote the afterword. And this is what this is all about. I even start off the back cover text with 1 Enoch 8:1-3, where it tells Azazel, and it says, "And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them." That's technology. And bracelets and ornaments and the use of antimony and the beautifying of the eyelids and so on and so forth. This is technology. So this is a fallen angel, a fallen watcher, that's teaching humanity things that humanity didn't know before and didn't need to know, Well, the same thing is happening now. Why is it happening now? Because we're in the last days. Because I believe it could be any day now. Any day we're going to get raptured. But even if the Lord tarries a little longer, you never know if by rapture or death you are going to leave this earth sometime. We need to get right with Jesus before that happens. You don't want to be sealed in eternity in the wrong place, apart from God. But if you want to know a little bit more about the book, it's the book of 1 Enoch teaches us about a time when 200 watchers fell to the earth, procreated with women, and taught mankind things they were never supposed to know. The book of Genesis tells us this event happened during Noah's lifetime. Jesus Christ himself taught that the end times would be like the days of Noah. We now live in a time when mankind once again is tampering with things that are forbidden and completely abominable to God Almighty. Has the influence of the Watchers returned once again in an attempt to corrupt and ultimately destroy humanity in these last days? Here's some things you'll learn about. Some of the stuff that we've talked about on this channel and a lot more. But how CIA psychics have been searching for the Ark of the Covenant. There's a story about that a while ago. See, it gets into the occultism. What Nephilim structures have been found under the pyramids in Egypt?
Well, Diane, when an earthquake struck, that'd easily send tidal waves into Japan. But none's happened, so there must have been one risen.
Really interesting story. CIA declassified accounts of alien revenge attacks, what Nephilim and hybridization experiments are happening right now, Q Day, and why the leaders and experts are so fearful of it. Talk a little bit about CERN, why people are worshiping an artificial god through artificial intelligence. This is literally happening. There are already religions, cults now, worshiping AI. And that's going to get more common. And again, don't fall into the trap of thinking,
Wow.
oh, that's just a few crazy
I never saw that angle that people would pray to AI. I never saw that coming.
people. It's nothing. Every time people have thought that, they have been proven wrong. Because what that attitude does is it allows these things to fester. It allows them to grow and continue until it's too big to do anything about it. How the development of artificial consciousness can lead to the image of the beast. What the unholy spirit is and how it relates to artificial intelligence. That's a really interesting one. And then how to properly take personal responsibility as a watchman.
Now, there would be contention from the Christian community, certainly, of the notion of something or somebody escaping, because the Bible clearly says that all the creatures that God had made, the air-breathing creatures, land-based creatures, were destroyed.
Right.
But there's no indication that the sea creatures were killed.
Yeah,
For one thing.
that's what I said, the mermaids.
And for another thing, we're talking about entities, and this may be parsing terms here, this may be splitting hairs, but we're talking about entities that God had made, that God had designed to be in the earth. But
Hey,
we know because
Bobo,
of
good to
Genesis
see you,
6
mate.
affair, that there were a lot of what I call unsanctioned entities in the earth that did not come about as a result of
No, we're not Jehovah's Witnesses, we're just Christian. We're not Catholic, we're not Baptist, we're not Protestant, we're just Christian.
of the providence of God. These were unsanctioned entities. Their existence was prohibited, and but they nevertheless came into being through the miscegenation of the Watchers, their copulation with human women, and these would have been very advanced entities. These were not the offspring of Adam, and these were not merely beasts of the earth. These were hybrids. And they would have had very advanced minds and perhaps been wielding very advanced technology that was given to them, or at the very least taught to them, according to the Book of Enoch, by their fathers, the Watchers. Right? And so, might they have had the technology to survive the flood to some degree, or at least some of them? And I think that the answer is yes. I think that they might have had that kind of technology. So either way, all four contingencies infer, I should say, a couple of things. They infer
Yeah.
that somehow the genetic line persisted.
Vas, I saw that mermaid thing you posted on Discord. That looked really crazy, didn't it?
Into the post-flood world. The genetic line of the Watchers persisted. That's established. We know that's true, and we don't have to make that case because it's self-evident. But it also infers that no matter how you dice it, God allowed that persistence, the persistence of that genetic line into a post-flood context. So I've heard the argument that
Hey guys, I saw something on YouTube about Trump getting 10 kings together. Let me see if I can find it for the next one.
genetic trademarks of the Watchers could not possibly have been communicated through the flood via the genomes of Noah's offspring, because that would make God incompetent. But the fallacy of that argument is that you could make the same argument for any of the four contingencies.
Yeah, it survived somehow.
Yeah, the fact is that the genetic line was present again in the post-flood world. So somehow they reemerged. And I don't believe that speaks to God being incompetent. I think that what we have is a persistent insurgency against God. that is continually active against him, this rebellion that is continually in engaging in insubordination against the Maker, and by some way, through some mechanism, was able to propagate itself in the post-flood context. One of those, either by one of those four contingencies, or perhaps by some other contingency that we've not even considered. And maybe there are some other ideas out there that I'm not aware of, but those are certainly the four, in my mind, the four most prominent possibilities of how the Nephilim, for lack of a better term, made it through the flood. So, it doesn't matter to me necessarily how they made it through the flood. The fact is they did. So it's important to identify the implications of the hybrid race in the post-flood context, especially as it relates to the end of the age, and being able to differentiate between the post-flood incursion of not necessarily another incursion of fallen angels, but certainly the post-flood incursion of their offspring, and a final Genesis 6 type event that is going to reoccur in the earth at the end of the age. And none of this is simple. None of this can be expressed in simplistic terms, because these are very complex concepts. And
That was over in about 30 seconds, guys. Where is it? Hang on. I just done it. There it is. This is 12 hours old, guys. 12 months to the big
right now,
crash.
love or lust for money, but out of preparation so that we can continue to live. As we're getting into the end time, make sure that you have enough. Not out of greed, right? Not out of love or lust for money, but out of preparation so that we can continue to minister, and maybe we can save some of our neighbors, like Joseph did. We are the Joseph generation. So we are here in the Netherlands, and we have to ask why. Because time is limited, resources are limited. Why would God bring us to the Netherlands? And actually, we have, a really good turnout for a partners meeting here. Give a shot. How do you say praise the Lord in Dutch? Go. 1, 2, 3.
Praise the
All right. Praise God. So there's evidence that we're surrounded by wonderful partners here. The Netherlands has contributed a couple of unique things that seem to relate to the sequence of prophetic events in Revelation 6. So the next horse after the red horse is the black horse, which is a financial famine. Could be literal food famine, could be just a recession, a depression. It doesn't have to be super scary, but it will just shock the world system. It will shock people. Lots of people continue to eat and get rich during a famine. So you could prepare yourself to be one of those. But where does the Netherlands fit in? The Netherlands is known for two things, at least, related to this. Number one, you have the most famous financial bubble on planet Earth, called the Tulip Mania, that happened in 1636 to February 37. So you were so crazed on investing in tulips that a bulb of tulip was selling for the price of a house. I mean, that's hysterical, isn't it? That is just financial frenzy. I don't know what to...
It's no different to when everyone was grabbing the toilet rolls from the shops, selling the shops out with toilet rolls.
Oh, it's just
Jeez,
foolishness. So something like that must be coming. So we're here to remind the world that it's happened before, and people have a normalcy bias that it will never happen again. That's how they think. They think whatever is my norm now is always going to be the norm in the future. But the tulip mania tells us people don't act normal. They act crazy. And it can happen to your neighbors. And they will go crazy on something, and it could be crypto. Right? Right now, crypto is for those who understood the blockchain, but now you get a bunch of people who, it doesn't matter. Meme coin, altcoin, the other coin that I can't say. But they basically now that I've been talking about it for many years, most of them really have a value of zero, right? They don't have any value. Their value is their story. Bitcoin has the best story. So it's riding on that story. But at any time, you could have a parabolic move in an asset, and everybody goes in, and then it will burst, and that will upset the system. So the tulip mania was one of those events. Now, the word tulip, where does it come from? The Dutch don't know. So the word tulip comes from a flower that originated in Turkey all the way down to Persia. And the word tulip comes from a Persian word that means the turban, because they thought that the tulip, when it's closed, looks a bit like a turban wrap around the head. So isn't that interesting? The most famous financial
You can tell God's fools by the stupid hats they wear.
bubble in the world is related to Islam.
Look at the Pope's fish head hat.
So that gives us a clue that whatever happened in history points to prophecy, patterns, or prophetic. So we don't pull out prophecy out of thin air. We have to root it in biblical history and in some known history. The known history is one of the first, and certainly the most famous financial bubble, originated with an asset that came from the Middle East that was hugely inflated and wasn't worth the price of a house. A bulb of tulips should not be worth the price of a house. But people believed in that. So people will believe in that. And if I say, some cryptos, people get mad. They literally get mad and say, I'm a false prophet. If I don't say XRP is going to the moon, it's going to $50, $500, $1,000, I don't know what they're believing. The definition of a false prophet is not someone who accurately predicts things. I accurately predicted that XRP strips away the gains, after the $1-2 rise, of course. Yeah, that if you got in under $1, which I did, then it's great. But you're coming in at $3 and you're hoping that it's going to go to 50. I don't know anymore. Could go to 5, sure, could make some money, and it could go to 0. Could go to $1 again, 70 cents again, and you'll be in a lot of pain. So timing is really important. So I tend to be sent as a sign, and I think what I'm picking up in my spirit is the Netherlands is a reminder to us of the financial bubble and the normalcy bias that people have, that it can never happen to us.
Yep.
The other thing that is a little bit unflattering for the Netherlands is not only did you have the most ridiculous financial bubble ever in history, you've also probably had a government that made the worst deal in history, other than maybe Alaska. Okay, Russia selling Alaska was so stupid, right? You would agree. So the Netherlands swapped New York City for Suriname. Whoever made that deal wasn't thinking right. So it's an interesting thing. Now they justify it. They didn't want to fight the British, and Suriname was bigger, and people like bigger. They go by the flesh. Suriname is bigger. Suriname is down in Latin America. If you don't know, it's a Dutch. Is it still a Dutch colony? Not anymore. Independent. But they have Indonesians there, and they have Indian former slaves, and they speak Dutch.
Yeah.
Can speak Dutch. Like Aruba can speak Dutch.
They have great connections.
And great connections. Have you been? Anyone been?
But,
I've talked to people who've been, and it's like it's jungle. It's not developed. It's hard to develop it because of the density of the jungle. So you swap the number one financial center of the planet for a jungle. And that was another Dutch decision. So I look at that and I just think, why are we here? What's the sign? It does seem to say that financial shocks and terrible deals and bad economic decisions happen all the time. Happens with educated people, happen in rich countries, happen in
Good question. What makes this one different?
rulers of empires. People make really bad financial mistakes. And I think the biggest one, or one of the biggest ones, is about to come. So brace yourself and don't
Yeah.
think that it just can't happen. Prepare a little bit. So the signs that we're telling you why we're here in the Netherlands is a reminder of what's to come, which is the Black Horse.
Step into Goshen Lake, a one-of-a-kind.
With Woolworths, you can bring a plate the whole crowd will love this Christmas. Look how natural.
Also have a ton of other things. Our president going viral with a clip about Somalis. We have also this weird prediction from Brandon Biggs. Remember this guy who predicted our president's ear would be grazed? He has a new prediction, and it actually matches my dream that I had about a year and a half ago. We'll get into that as well. Pretty crazy. And actually a ton of other stuff, including this guy right here and much more. First, so let's just get into this. Let's talk about some of these things with regards to food. We have here at Albertsons a guy taking a video of when they removed one of the produce shelves. Check this out. This is pretty crazy, actually.
Bro, look at y'all produce at the grocery store. Look what's under it. Boy, look at all that black mold. The fan blowing. The moldy water all on your shit.
Wow, that's on purpose. Wow.
Boy, look, hey, rinse it down with the mold water.
Yeah, of course, it's got a fan blowing it, too. Oh, my goodness. That's horrible. You got all this mold on this spot with a fan next to it, blowing all this water back up onto all the produce. I'm sure that's going to be very nice. Yeah, so, I mean, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about. Underneath that beautiful looking produce, there's this weird gook underneath. And, of course, on top of that, like I showed you in a previous video yesterday, that there's some viral clip about ice cream, where I think it was at Aldi's. The lady actually left it in her trailer for 4 days and got it out, and you could still scoop it like regular ice cream. Like, it was like totally solid. It was obviously melted, but it really didn't melt. It didn't turn into water any way, shape, or form. It looked like still a solid whatever it was. Really kind of weird, and they can't even call it ice cream anymore. And of course, then you have this label that everybody notices on all their products now that they buy. I started noticing it myself. I bought Honey Nut Cheerios. It says bioengineered food ingredients on it. Apparently, the regular Cheerios don't have it. The only type of Cheerios that doesn't have it is the regular. But everything else does, of course. And literally anything else you buy pretty much has bioengineered food listed on it.
Going crazy because the bioengineered food shit. This has got bioengineered. This turn up almost every week.
Oh my goodness.
Hungry Jack bioengineered.
Pretty much everything. Yeah, of course she has it backwards, so you can't even see what it says. Yeah, so of course, if you go look at pretty much anything that's in a box, you'll see this pretty much on it.
Yeah.
Almost everything. Almost everything. It's pretty ridiculous at this point. I don't know what to make of it. Obviously, a lot of people are complaining about this. We are seeing some changes. Like they got rid of forever chemicals from a lot of wrappers on, you know, like when you get a burger, or like you go to a Burger King, Taco Bell, McDonald's, et cetera, the wrappers used to have forever chemicals in them. And they got rid of it finally. And I think it was around 2 years ago. But it took me a long time to figure this out. I kept doing searches. What companies still have this forever chemicals? I figured out eventually what happened was they passed a law saying you can no longer make anything wrapper-wise with forever chemicals in it. I think it was back in 2023 or 2024. And so pretty much, since they probably went through all the wrappers that were old, I don't think there's any company that actually has forever chemicals anymore in the wrappers. That was one. There's a lot of things like this. There's like an insane amount of stuff like this. Glyphosate, apparently a number of companies are getting rid of that now. I think it's because of you and I complaining, people online talking about this all the time. So that's some good news, right? Then you got this story here of Amy Schumer losing a ton of weight, and now she's rumored to be divorcing her chef husband. I mean, this is disgusting. Honestly, I think she used Ozempic, and now she lost the weight, and the very first thing she does is she tries to get a divorce. This is how ridiculously typical a lot of these influencers are, or famous people, whatever you want to call them, social media / Hollywood people, because you have a lot of social media influencers like this as well, where they have the most ridiculous lifestyle. Well, they say the exact opposite usually, not in her case really, but a lot of people are like that. And it's really disgusting. Then you got this lady here, another one who is criticizing a president because he used one of her songs, I think, well, Ice did, not him, but on one of their videos. Check this out.
Sabrina Carpenter is at war with the Trump White House. The pop megastar is fuming after they used one of her songs in a video of ICE agents in action. This video is evil and disgusting, the singer posted on social media. Do not ever involve me or my music to benefit your inhumane agenda.
Nothing like being lectured on morality by a Disney star who cultivated a preteen audience, then proceeded to make this her signature dance move. Made this her album cover, referred to herself as looking like a child, followed by a gross innuendo, subjected minors to weirdly awkward questions about.
So, of course, she obviously is totally not a good influence on anybody. And she's complaining that her president's deporting people, which, of course, they got here illegally, because apparently ICE used one of her songs. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, people pretending like they're in some sort of moral high ground on their high horse. Well, their lifestyle is completely and utterly degenerate, trying to lecture other people on how to live their lives. It's absolutely insane, right? Then you got Ben Shapiro here with one of his worst takes ever. I think this is probably, I don't know if this is his worst take, but probably up there at the top 10 at least. Maybe it is number one, where he talks about how you should never retire. Check this out. It's pretty crazy.
No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years. And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job.
Oh my goodness, dude. So, of course, he's saying basically you should not retire because you're going to just die anyways. This is basically his argument. You should never retire. You should work forever. And also, if you can't find a job in your area that pays enough, it's your fault. You need to move. You should move out of your own neighborhood and find another place to work. This is the kind of ridiculous crap he has been saying of recent. You have here a guy who's basically the book of Ecclesiastes here, hates the concept of going to work to gain money, and he didn't ask for this. This is pretty hilarious. Check this out.
The concept of having to go to work to gain money, to pay to live on an earth I didn't ask to be on, yeah, it really feels like a subscription service I never signed up for. And the trial period ended way too fast. Like 1 minute I'm a kid watching cartoons, the next minute I'm paying rent to stay alive on a floating rock. Who designed this system? I mean, work so I can afford food, so I can have energy to go back to work. It's a scam. Okay, and the worst part is if you complain, people hit you with, that's life. Yeah, well, life needs an update then, okay, because this version is glitchy. Okay.
So, of course, this reminded me of the book of Ecclesiastes. This is chapter 2 of the book of Ecclesiastes, the futility of work. I hated all for which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who comes after me. And who knows whether that man will be wise or foolish, yet he will take over all the labor at which I have worked skillfully under the sun. This too is futile. So my heart began to despair over all the labor that I had done under the sun. When there is a man who has labored with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, he must give it his portion to a man who has not worked for it. This too is futile, and a great evil. For what does a man get for all the 12 striving with which he labors under the sun? Indeed, all his days are filled with grief, and his task is sorrowful. Even at night his mind does not rest. This too is futile. Nothing is better for a man than to eat, drink, and enjoy his work. I have also seen that this is from the hand of God. So if you don't enjoy your work, saying you should enjoy your work. If you don't enjoy your work, maybe you should get a different job or find something you do love. That's basically what I think.
I used to do concreting. I enjoy doing that. It keeps you fit and it's good, really good money.
Ecclesiastes is saying, because
I had my own business at one stage, but I got into the drugs and lost it all.
otherwise it's futile. I mean, this guy's basically making the point, all you're doing is giving yourself food for fuel so you can just go back to work to the job you don't like. I mean, it does kind of make sense a little bit. At any rate, speaking of food, you might want to get yourself some food supply. 25-year shelf life, link is in the description. 4 months worth for $6.97. You might want to get that if you haven't already. The fact is, we do have a weird prediction from Brandon Biggs I'm going to get into in a minute about a plague. And it actually seems to be tied into a power outage or the grid. And actually, I saw a weird comment under my video as well from someone who had the same dream. Apparently, him and his sister had the same dream about some sort of plague and the power going out too. And it kind of relates to my dream, which was about the power going out, which is supposed to be the next part of my dream that comes true. All the other things have already come true in my dream from a year and a half ago. So I don't know. Maybe there is something to that. You might want to get this book as well, How to Live Without Electricity. $37, get the free version. Link is in the description. And of course, go check out all of my social media and GR videos. I actually discounted it, and I'm going to send an email to all those that were canceled because honestly, it's unfair. I think you guys, sometimes you get canceled, and it happened once before like this, and it actually was a little bit different last time. And a lot of you guys responded like, "Hey, yeah, I didn't even realize it." Like 200 people came back. I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna send out an email soon here because it's pretty ridiculous how the system's set up. It really screws over you guys, especially those that signed up and then you get canceled. You don't even know why you got canceled. Anyway, if you want to, go check it out. It's $5.95 a month. First month is free. Link is in the description. All right, let's get back to the video. We have Brandon Biggs here with a prediction. He's the guy that predicted our president's ear would be grazed 3 to 4 months before it happened. He actually predicted the correct side of the face, the correct ear. He basically explained the whole thing out, even how he went down on his knee 3 or 4 months beforehand. This is the same guy. He's got a new prediction.
That is true. That's how it went down.
Check this out.
And I see them trying to inflict a shot. And no, they were, and the moment they took it, they made them very sick. I saw the people, and there are boils, these massive pus pockets. They look like boils all over their bodies. No good in my, and it was all in New York City. And it spread, and the darkness spread and it went all down into Miami. It went all down, and I saw darkness in the buildings. Darkness in the buildings. There was a fog all in New York City. It was like there, and the Lord said electric grid.
So this is interesting. So it's up.
Not big on his shirt.
Sounds like two things happened around the exact same time. And I'm just, trying to put all these things together. I'm not saying I know what this means. This could be literally 4 years from now. It could be this year. It could be very soon. I don't know what this is. I had a dream where I saw in the city the power was out at the end of the dream. Rest of the dream has already come true. So I know this is next. I just don't know when it happens. Also, I feel like this year is the mini will fall in the fall that King Clement predicted. I'm not saying I know for sure that's it either.
Diane, there's no way that's true. There's no way that's true, Bobo.
I don't know. It could be next year. It could be this year. I feel like it's this year because we have so many things already lining up. But you know how long these things take. We even have a thing on Obama here as well.
Take a look inside Häagen-Dazs, made of France, where only the best will do. Combining rich cream, luscious buttery caramel with crunchy brittle pieces. Et voila, the ice cream of ice creams.
Some decisions just work out perfectly, like your new Daikin AC, convenient controls and quiet. Unlike the decision to let the kids play inside. Make a smart choice with Daikin.
There's nothing more important to us than our kids' future. So we need something simple to protect our family financially in case the worst happens to one.
Life is full of noise. Tune out the noise.
But could all these be related? Could these people fall, that's when they pull all these things off. The power goes out, something gets released. We had Fauci come out recently and say, "Oh, there's going to be another one before he's out of office." So that would be in the next 3 years. Perhaps that's referring to what Brandon's talking about here. Could that be this year? Could that be next year? Could it be the third year? When are they all going to fall? Is that when it gets released? This is kind of how I'm putting it together. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just kind of speculating. Okay, there's a difference between me and him. I'm not literally predicting.
Do you remember Trump in the White House in his first term? And there's a lot of press there and a few of his cronies. And he said, "This is the calm before the storm." And he said that about a month before COVID hit. So he knew it was coming.
This, I'm speculating on what these predictions are saying. I mean, there's other people on YouTube that do that as well. Polney does that, Bo. If you've ever seen him, he does the exact same thing. He speculates based on a bunch of different predictions. I also have my own dreams, but I don't know exactly when they will occur. So I think that's rather interesting. It could be this year, it could be next year, it could be the third year. I'm guessing probably in the next 3 years based on what the doctor said. Sounds like about right, and it doesn't sound like a fun one. It doesn't not sound like a fun one at all. And also I talked about they did another one of those, one of those simulations. I covered that on video recently as well. They did the simulation right before it happened last time. So that would be within a year if it's the same sort of modus operandi. They just did one with an Eastern Asian island, and and it affected, of course, the younger, not the older this time around, right? So you got that factor, just putting all those things together, trying to see what that might mean. All right, there's that. Then we got this story. So this guy's video, it says here, he titled it, "So Nobody Can Afford Games Anymore." And he's actually referring to all computer products, pretty much any electronics you see in the store, which is, I think, what a lot of people have been complaining about. We saw Costco raising their prices an insane amount, trying to blame it on our president, saying it was all about tariffs, when in reality, all they import is like bananas and pineapples. I said no one eats pineapples, and people in the comment section were saying, "No, what are you talking about? I buy like 4 a week." Okay, there's people who eat pineapples. Okay, you know what I mean? All right, but the fact is, I think a lot of these price increases might be because of these data centers buying up all these microchips from NVIDIA for AI, which wants to take your jobs. And this is what he's talking about.
What's happening right now is that AI is taking over the world. Who would have guessed it? And these data centers are doing everything they can to be able to keep up with this AI gold rush because everybody wants a piece of that money. And that's pushed these guys to raid the consumer market for products, buying up everything off the shelves before we even have a chance to get our hands on it, causing a lot of scarcity and making prices skyrocket with no end in sight.
100%.
The part that really bothers me with all of this is just how obvious this play is. These guys are just getting way too sloppy for me. It's starting to aggravate me at this point. Like, if you're going to be a scammer, you got to try to hide it a little bit. But these guys...
I mean, it's pretty bad, actually, these data centers, man. They're getting pretty bad.
Guys don't even want to bother hiding it anymore. They're not trying to do anything to fix any of these issues. They're not scrambling.
Yeah, they're not trying to fix it. Of course, it's also a massive market bubble as well. So these prices are going up on NVIDIA chips because OpenAI is buying all these chips from them. And then it's causing a squeeze on the consumer market, which makes the prices go up. Supply and demand. There's more supply, less demand. prices go up on everything that you and I want to buy, while this AI data center that wants to take your job is taking up all these products, all these chips and electronic components that are causing all your consumer goods to go up in price, and also even causing other things. We have also on top of that inflation, which is a big deal as well. And anyway, of course, I talked about in the previous video about Costco suing our president's administration over tariffs, which of course is exactly, they raise their prices just like Walmart did. It's like totally slimy. They raise their prices and then they put out a press release. Oh, it's the president's fault. Basically is what they're saying. That's what they do. They like raise the prices and then they blame our president. It's kind of hilarious how they do that. And of course, they don't tell you that all these products that are imported from China, same tariffs as when Joe Biden was in. I went through and I did a ton of research, took me like 30 minutes. Exact same tariff price as when Joe was in. All Chinese goods.
Baby, you're not going to find a girl in your bedroom or your house. You got to go to the pub or somewhere and meet them.
Totally lying to you. The only thing they import produce-wise is bananas and pineapples. Bananas are still super cheap. Pineapples are pretty freaking cheap. So they have literally no excuse. All the other produce is from America, pretty much. Maybe some of it's from Mexico. They're literally lying to you about tariffs. They're not costing them hardly anything. Okay? They're lying. Straight up lying. Because the Chinese tariff is the same as when Joe was in. Okay? So I think it's a joke that they're doing this. Of course, like I said, even though this guy was saying these games are going to go up in price, we're going to make sure our game doesn't go up in price. However, we are still creating the game, and we still have the investment opportunity. If you're interested, $400 get on board. We have had quite a few people come on board. We have, I think, less than 100 left now out of 700. So 600 plus people have already got involved. Those who get involved will have a share of the 33% of Noah VR profits when we release the game. Most games take like 5 to 10 years to make. It's been 4 years, I think, at this point. We are pretty far along. We are hiring some more people on. We're trying to get this thing done. We want it to be very high quality. We don't want some cheesy garbage game. We want this thing to be awesome so that everybody wants to play it. It's going to be like an Indiana Jones meets the Book of Enoch, okay? And there's going to be a VR version, and there's going to be a standard version. We're going to try to release it on all platforms. And the reason why we're doing the VR is so we got the foot in the door with these big companies like PlayStation and Xbox, because they need those type of games. That also will get us in the door with the standard version. But we're going to have both versions. So if you're interested in getting involved, link is in the description for that. Go check it out. Let's get back to the video. So we have here, this is very interesting. Larry Fink from BlackRock is saying the exact same thing as Ben Shapiro. Oh, go figure. That's kind of weird.
Edition of the One Percenters never fail to disappoint us. The CEO and founder of BlackRock, the private equity fund with the largest assets under management in the world, Larry Fink, woke up and instead of saying let them eat cereal, just said let them work to death forever. He came out in a very large speech given this week in Economic Forum and said people are
Interesting.
absolutely insane to think they have a right to retire at 65.
You have a right to retire whenever you want to. And Larry Fink has no right to tell you what to do, right? And it kind of makes you wonder regarding Ben Shapiro, because they've been known in the past to make deals with big companies, not to say certain things on, of course, platforms like the one I'm on currently, so that they can still get promoted, during the hard times, like we're talking back in 2020, for example. And perhaps they're just saying the exact same big corporate message that Larry Fink wants them to say. It's kind of weird how he said the exact same thing they said as Larry Fink from BlackRock. You have, of course, Ben pushing America's retirement age up higher. You have Anna Kasparian arguing and debating with Ben Shapiro about this, saying this is absolutely ridiculous what he had to say about you and I not being able to retire, that we should just work until we die.
Who crushed the American economy.
Hold on, when you're talking about the government paying, you're talking about Social Security, which is people's money?
Well, it is.
I just totally reject what you just said about how we're going bankrupt due to Social Security. Really, you don't think like the...
Oh, this is amazing. So the reason why he says that we should have the retirement age higher is because he thinks that we are making our country bankrupt. with Social Security. When in reality, we sent trillions overseas for wars that have nothing to do with our country. Trillions and trillions of dollars. That is actually where our national debt, and a lot of it's from, not from Social Security. Social Security is going bankrupt because they literally rob us. It's our own money being put into Social Security, and they literally take it out and put IOUs in it, while they also rob us with these wars. Clearly, this is a joke. Anna Kasparian is 100% right on that one. Of course, here you have Ben Shapiro. It's from the Babylon Bee. Telling all these grandmas to get back to work at the old folks home. Yes, just get back to work, you old lazy hags. This is like how he's talking. Yeah, pretty bad. So, of course, then we got, and this is a pretty funny meme. If you could stop noticing, that'd be great. If you ever saw the movie Office Space, this is the boss that told him to come to work on Saturday and Sunday. That'd be great. Of course, he's a terrible boss. Yeah, so if you ever watched that movie. Then we got here Nick on Bradley Martin's show talking about why Ben Shapiro said what he said. Is he really just not noticing what he's doing?
But like, why do you think they just believe that because it worked for so long that it should just work now? Or is it like, are they willfully ignoring their words? Like,
yeah, there's like a deep lack of self-awareness, because when these people put this content out, you have to say to yourself, like for example, even on a different subject, Ben Shapiro, he's in the middle of all this controversy lately. Everyone's criticizing him, and he goes on a show and
I used to like Ben Shapiro, but I caught him being two-faced, so don't ever watch him again.
says, if you can't afford to live in your house, it's like, what are you thinking? How did you think that was going to play? He goes and says, if you can't afford to live in your city, go move somewhere else. You don't deserve. Yeah, and it's like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear how that sounds? And I genuinely think they don't. And
this is kind of funny, man. Obviously, he's not paying attention to what he's saying. I agree with Nick on this.
Why? We have to realize that, like someone like Shapiro, for example, he came around pretty early on, but he really hit his stride like 2015, 2016. His entire career was built under the censorship regime.
Right. So he goes on and actually says something similar to what I was just saying a minute ago about how he made all these deals and stuff with big tech, as you would call it, and said I wouldn't say this on video or that on video to stay on the platform, and that's why he's the way he is. He had no. He actually goes in farther on it. Nick goes on and then he says that because he was the only one still on the platform because everybody else got kicked off, like Crowder and others, he had no competition. So he's on this platform by himself, no competition, because he made all these deals. And so he had for a long time a sort of a monopoly on YouTube, and had that for like years, for like 4 or 5 years, just complete monopoly. No pushback, nobody debating him, saying, hey, maybe you don't know what you're talking about, Ben. And now that everybody's been brought back onto YouTube and are challenging him, Ben doesn't know how to deal with it, because Ben got famous off, challenging blue-haired feminists on college campuses, back in 2015 about being woke and stuff like that. He can't handle people on his own side challenging him. And apparently he doesn't pay attention to how he sounds when he says certain things, because clearly he sounds pretty ridiculous saying that you need to work until you die. That's pretty insane. You know what I mean? Then you got here Obamameister saying that we need to import more from, of course, every corner of the planet. This is what makes America exceptional.
Yeah. That you get a bunch of people from every corner of the planet who don't look alike.
All right, that's the most important part, of course.
When this little girl worried Santa wouldn't find her, she took matters into her own hands. So did Santa stop here? Watch the full story.
I was already on it. Why not change it? It's just so bad.
Worship exactly the same way to their God, and
So how the hell is that going to make us better, dude?
don't even don't eat the same foods.
I thought America got exceptional by being what it is currently, not or being what it was, more so maybe. And now you're saying we should change it to make it more exceptional. Does that even make any sense? We've seen that experiment fail over there in Europe, in the UK. Not looking very exceptional anymore, are they? Not really. Actually, it's looking like a pretty crappy place, if you ask me. It's kind of interesting, of course, regarding the Obama Meister there. That what did my grandma call him? Obama? I think she called him Obama. What was it? I think she Obama. That's what she called him. Obama. My grandma, she was like 93 when she died. I don't know. She'd be like 98 or 100 now if she was still alive. She called him Obama. That's what she called him. She didn't like him
That's what we call him because of Big Mike.
too much. Let's just put it that way. So, of course, Obama here has a bunch of tunnels, apparently, under his house. And I guess Oprah lives near him, too. I don't know. They say that there's tunnels. What's going on with these tunnels, man? What's up with this? I mean, is he meeting with all those mythological creatures underground or something? I don't know.
Oprah Winfrey's out in Australia now. I wish I'd lock her up.
What's going on with that? Yeah, sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Of course, then we got our president. We're talking Trump here, saying some pretty crazy stuff lately. He's like done with it, man. He's just saying whatever he wants to say now. This is getting nuts. Here's this guy named Joey. I don't even know who this guy is. Apparently, his tweet was reposted by our president. And it's pretty crazy what he said in this tweet that he reposted. Okay, let me just show you this. This is nuts. I'm sick and tired of these blanking pirates. They invade, rob us blind, impose their Sharia blank, and to milk the taxpayers dry. We'll call it BS. Milk the taxpayers dry with nonstop fraud after fraud. Meanwhile, there's unlimited cash for these inbred, oh my goodness, savages. But Jack, shit for our own veterans sleeping on the street. Enough is enough. Deport them, of course, all. Yeah, so our president retweeted this. And Joey was like shocked. Because, I mean, look, this is completely unfiltered, straight up, like every word, swear word you can imagine, like just pissed off. And our president retweeted it. He's like shocked. He's like, if this is how he truly feels about Somalians, I love him more than I knew I could. That's pretty funny, man. I can't believe he retweeted that either. I mean, here's a clip, too. There's a clip of him going viral saying we don't need garbage in our country. Dude, this is what he's saying. He's saying garbage. Check this out.
You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other. And
This is
we're
the
going
best
to go
part.
the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell and they complain and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back.
100%.
Beautifully said.
We don't want them in our country. Exactly. I mean,
to where they came from and fix it.
Wow, man. See, look, he's just totally saying what he's really thinking now. The fact is, we don't need crap slingers. We don't need them here. We don't need people that are doing stuff that is not helping our country. He's not talking about all Somalians. He says 88% of them live on welfare here in America. Why did you come here to live on welfare? Really? 50% of them have fraudulent papers, according to Noam, Christy Noam. 50% have fraudulent papers, and particularly the ones in Minnesota that were under, what's his name? Tim Walz, right? 50% had fraudulent papers. I saw Reddit posts about people like they were from Somalia and said, "Hey, should I go and move to Minneapolis?" And then other Somalians were like, "Hey, yeah, you should come here, man. We're like a really tight-knit community. We have lots of they'll let you in on their crime and their fraud and stuff. Like they're literally doing crime sprees here. They're like setting up like scams and stuff. Like not all of them, of course, but way too many. Way too many. If there's a Somalian that comes here and he's working hard and he's not scamming people and he's not scamming our welfare system and he's doing hard work and he's trying to help our country, and okay, great. But if you're just
This is a weird one. We get the Irish coming, they're talking about they organise trips to right countries. Irish come into Australia and head to our neighbourhoods and offer to change the tiles on the roof, but there's something wrong with it. And it starts off like $300 and it ends up they lay out the whole roof because they just ripped them off. But that's weird that he brought up something similar.
coming here to scam us, to rob us, and you're calling our country crap when you came from a hellhole? Are you serious? Just kick him out, man. It's like the ungrateful cousin that keeps asking money from you, and as soon as you don't give him money, he says you have no money, you're broke anyways, and you're the one with all the money, and he's asking you for the money. It's the same attitude. It's those people that are always mooching off you. It's the same attitude. It's garbage. We should have zero moochers here. Zero moochers. Anybody that's a moocher came here just to mooch, gone, out of here, because all you do is cost us money, and all you do is complain.
There won't be any Muslims left if they do that. Thank God.
100% agree with them. Of course, here's Ben Stiller. The actor Ben Stiller says, Somalis are not garbage. He didn't say they were. He said those that are robbing us and fraudulent, which is a lot of them. It's at least 50%. It's maybe even 88% if you look at it that way with the welfare. Immigrants and refugees from anywhere are people like you and me. They should not be demonized. This country is built on the backs of people who come from other places. Yeah, built on the backs of people who work. They don't come here and get welfare checks. It's what our country is all about. If they're working, bro. If they're not working, then they're not doing anything. They're not building anything. They're just sucking off the work of others that are building it, right? So this is what's so wrong with all this. Minnesota food plant. This just came out 2 hours ago. Oh, I know I put it here. It has the word Somali in it. That's what I want to get. Apparently, workers engaging in hygiene violations while, oh my goodness, urinating in trash cans, bringing roaches into the facility. Really? Oh my goodness. These are like food plant. No wonder our food's going to hell, man. This is like part of it too. What? Hormel Foods, Jenny O'Turn. What are all these companies? I've heard of Cargill, General Mills. Wow. Okay, let's hear what this guy has to say.
I worked in a major food production facility that supplies the United States and Canada with food. I watched as they brought Somalians in, and they began to urinate and defecate wherever they please within this food production facility plant. We had to put up signs explaining how to use the bathroom correctly, but yet it was never corrected. I've seen as grown men wash their genitals within the sinks, made homemade bidets from the garbage in the break rooms, and then brought in a roach infestation to the plant. Once again, I will tell you this is a major food production facility and cannot shut down for anything. I did, however, have it shut down once for a lockdown due to one of them returning to the food processing facility with a knife.
Oh my goodness.
It's a real problem. And it's a major reason why I left Minnesota.
Oh my goodness, this is horrible.
I tell you what, if I was working somewhere and guys are dropping their pants and just crapping in the middle of the pathway, I would pick a fight with them. I wouldn't now, I'm too old now. When I was younger, I wouldn't have copped that. I probably still would now, even though I'm older. I'd still throw one.
I lived in Cloquet, Minnesota for a little while, for like 2 months in a co-op as an engineer, which is not far from, I think, Duluth, Minnesota. I don't know if that's near Minneapolis. I don't know much about Minnesota. I lived in Cloquet, and it was near Duluth. That's all I know. And I mean, it's sort of like got Catholic roots. You know what I mean? It's They got bar and grills everywhere. And I actually lived on an Indian reservation. I lived literally next to an Indian reservation for 2 months. I lived in a park, a national. I don't know if you call it a national park, just a park. You know, there's like this, like a forestry area, like a forestry. I lived in this forestry cabin, literally next door to an Indian reservation, while I was working at a paper and pulp mill in Cloquet, Minnesota, which now apparently doesn't exist anymore, called Potlatch, but as an engineer. So I saw kind of what the people in Minnesota are like. A lot of them are Catholic, not necessarily fully active in church, but definitely like the beer and like the burgers, you know what I mean? So at any rate, of course, I mean, they also kind of drank the Kool-Aid, you know, hey, just let them live like they want to live. Oh, yeah, just let everybody in. They kind of have that attitude. And it's not surprising that Minnesota went the way it did. Now they have this huge problem there in Minnesota because of Tim Walz. And now you can see what's happening at some of these food facilities there in Minnesota, or not Minnesota, Minnesota. At any rate, so you get kind of the idea. What else do we got? So I was going to get into Candace a little bit here because this is getting so crazy. So let me just explain what's going on with Candace. Now, before we were talking about Charlie Kirk, what was that, like a month ago now? I've already stopped talking about it a long time ago. She's still talking about it 2+ months later. Now she's been alluding to, indirectly accusing TPUSA as being involved in his death. And I think she realized she stepped in it, and I'm going to show you the receipts of that right now, that she stepped in it, and she knows she did, even though she's not admitting it, because of her moves. She's very tactical in what she does. Now, she's trying, of course, this is what this person said. Well, let's just read her tweet here. I received information last night that put the final pieces together for me. I now can say with full confidence that I believe Charlie Kirk was betrayed by the leadership of Turning Point USA and some of the very people that eulogized him on stage. Yes, I only be naming names, providing evidence for my claims. This, I think, is the line that got.
She's taking on Macron because she says Macron's wife is a guy. And I looked into it. It's a guy. She's right.
Got her in trouble. And I'll show you why. And I am making a personal plea to every well-meaning person who donated to this God-forsaken organization to request a refund. That probably didn't help either. And you were lied to, and leadership knew. So she's been getting bigger and bigger and bigger in every one of her claims on every single video.
I used to feel anxious. Change would stress me out. Visitors? No thanks. But thanks to Fellaway, I feel much better. I'm much calmer now, just living my best life.
Want more for the trip of a lifetime or a new car? Go greater with a Greater Bank personal loan.
And people pointed out that we are in a slow time for politics. So you need to keep upping the ante with a more shocking title and topic and stuff like that, because there's nothing really going on. Somewhere in the middle of politics, sort of in between things. And so I kind of feel like she's been hyping this stuff, and I think she went too far on this one, because and I'll show you her moves. Her latest move is now she's going to sit down with TPUSA on their show on the 15th of this month. Well, she's not going to literally be physically present. She's going to call in, according to her. I'll show you the tweets in a second here. But now ask yourself, if she really believed what she said here, does it really make a lot of sense for her to join them and talk this through? Or is that kind of her walking it back, and then she's going to say, and I'm going to guess, I'm going to predict, I'm not going to say I'm right, but this is just me guessing. I'm going to guess that she was going to say, I was not implying or intending for people to think that literally TPUSA, got rid of Charlie Kirk, took him out. She's going to say that. She's going to go on the show and say, I was not saying that. That's what she's going to say. But when you look at these tweets, it looks like that's what she's implying. So she's walking back her tweets, is what she's doing. She's walking them back because she knows she went too far. Okay? It is true, though, she has been the target of various GOVs. It is true. And it could be very well the case that even France has done something or wants to do something to her. Because you even have here, apparently, these guys, Veritas here, pointing out that there were groups in our own GOV that were trying to blackmail her. Okay? So this is a legitimate thing. She might be very much correct on a number of things she's been saying. I don't know. I kind of feel like she's been exaggerating a lot of stuff and implying too many things and going too far with some of the stuff she's been saying. But it might be very well true that there is somebody trying to take her, of course, out. It could be true. I don't know. Let's see if I can get this on screen. I can't get this on screen better, can I? There we go. Okay, that's the last part of it. I need to start talking. Okay, let me go to the first part, top. I need to start working on the Candace Owens case. The harder one is Candace because she's very resistant. They were trying to blackmail her, apparently, or get her on board with something. There's another one here as well. Let's see if we got a screen a little bit better. Have you been working on the issue with Candace Owens? You can't even spell her name right. Owens, we need to blackmail her faster. What does this say? Okay, go away, dude. What's this little note? I don't care. Go away. AW, want to know if they need to focus on Candace or Candace first. I am so angry at her that I can't stop thinking if the things she says about, look, man, I mean, there's some people ain't happy with her. Okay? And this isn't her own GOV. She didn't accuse them of anything. Well, technically, she's been kind of implying a lot of people have been doing a lot of stuff. So actually, she might have implied that a little bit with maybe Cash and stuff. I don't know. I haven't been watching all of her episodes. I know there's an extensive list of people that she's been implying and done stuff. Then we got here Candace's exact quote about talking to TPUSA yesterday. Can you pick a place? You can pick a place. You can pick a time. I say we do it tomorrow. We don't need to plan for this. I want it to be authentic. And this is going to be, that's actually, it might sound good for her to say that, but I would say that's not good for her to say because the last time she did one of these, she really didn't look good. She went on a show and I don't have the clip in front of me, but she went on a show and she said she conflated two different pieces of evidence on the show and it made her look bad because she wasn't prepared at any rate. So she apparently said this first. You can pick a place, you can pick a time, let's do it tomorrow. And then they did pick a time. They said, okay, let's just do it on December 15th. I actually have the tweet right here. Okay, let's do it on Monday, December 15th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, or 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. local time, whatever that is. What would that be? Whatever that is. 4 p.m. EST. Charlie's friends will respond to statements made by real Candace Owens to set the record straight once and for all prior to opening of American Fest. We will be live streaming from Charlie's Phoenix studio. Our offer from yesterday holds. If Candace wishes to join us in person in Phoenix, she is welcome to do so. She can let us know by the end of the day. So then she goes, kind of weird how you don't email or call me to ask about times or availability. You chose to instead tweet the information out at midnight. Why am I learning about this on X? December 15th does not work in person at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But Pacific Time is also a little time I do my podcast live every day. Well, it's kind of funny because that obviously must be a good time slot because both them and her do it at the exact same time. But we will happily cancel the daily podcast and we'll join you guys virtually instead for the live stream on the 15th. So that actually makes sense. So she didn't actually back out on it, but she didn't like the fact they didn't email her. But she did say, "I'll join you live, but not in person." Okay, so we'll get to see that happen. And that'll at least give her time to prepare and them time to prepare because it'll be on the 15th. So I'd rather see them prepared talking rather than just off the cuff tomorrow because I think that it's going to look bad for either side if they're not ready for it. And she's been saying a lot of stuff, and they got a lot to go through, so they got to be prepared for it. So I think this is interesting. I think she's walking it back. The fact that she wanted to meet with him is her walking it back. I think she realizes she's went too far. She's now walking it back, and she's not going to tell you that, but that's what she's doing. And of course, her fans are going to. There's a lot of. She has some really dedicated fans, super dedicated fans that are going to like somehow explain away why she did it the way she did it. But I'm telling you, that's the real reason she did it. Is because she's walking it back some. And you got others calling her out. She now sees some bigger voices. Of course, Tim is not as big as her, Tim Pool, calling her out. And he's been saying he's been getting pretty harsh on her, actually. He said some pretty harsh stuff here. Let's play a little bit of this.
He says, Tim, I work in construction and experience the same thing. My coworkers are all in on the Charlie Kirk conspiracies. If the Republicans lose in the midterms, I believe that Candace Owens is wholly responsible. She is one of the biggest podcasts on the right doing everything to go to war with the organization that helped get Trump elected.
Yeah, but I don't agree with she's the only reason or anything.
Turning Point specifically was going out and registering people to vote without.
So, okay. All right. So I wouldn't say that she is the sole. He said the sole reason, right?
It's Hugh. He says, Tim, I work in construction and experience the same thing. My coworkers are all in on the Charlie Kirk conspiracies. If the Republicans lose in the midterms, I believe that Candace Owens is wholly responsible.
Okay, wholly responsible. I don't think that's true. I think she's part responsible, though, if we do lose, because she has been focusing on Charlie Kirk and TPUSA and almost blaming TPUSA, which is kind of ridiculous. It actually started out pretty good with Candace. First week or two was okay, but then it started getting kind of weird after on the third and fourth week. The last 2 weeks, it was at the fourth or fifth week, whatever that is. So the first couple of weeks were fine with what she was doing, but then it started getting weird because she started blaming everybody. She's coming up with grander and grander things, and then just started, implying that they did it. And I'm like, really? You're gonna imply they did it? And the problem is, so look, I was in the community that was doing conspiracies like crazy back 10, 15 years ago. And again, back when I used to talk about some of that stuff, I made it clear that not all of these are true. Some of these are just straight up not true. We don't know which ones are true, which ones are false. And it's just we were investigating it. But there were some people that were literally saying, all these are true. This is true. This is true. This is true. All of them are true. And I don't think that was beneficial. And I feel like there's an issue there where a lot of people just believe, especially if it's kind of weird. So like if someone gets canceled, everyone just assumes they're authentic. She got canceled. She's authentic. Nick got canceled. He's authentic. And there is something to that. There is some veracity to that. It is true. But that doesn't mean everything they say is true. It doesn't mean everything they come up with is right or accurate or anything of that nature. And you have to also think about everyone has their own ego. They have reasons they do certain things. They may come across like they're being, I want to do this because I want to know the truth. Or are they really doing it because they want to know the truth and they want more views? You know what I mean? Like there could be some caveats to that where she wants to keep the views really high, keep the following really huge, and then she realized she went too far and now she's backpedaling and wants to resolve this. So she's going to talk with TPUSA, and I'm guessing she's going to say, I wasn't implying that you guys did it. She's going to say that. Watch me. But watch it. We'll see if I'm right or not. She's going to say, I was not implying it. It just looked like it. Or she's not going to say that shit. I was just saying there were people that weren't doing right with Charlie when he was alive. She's going to say something like that. Watch, I guarantee I'm going to be right.
Shawnee, I've only just heard about that, what you posted. I only just heard about that. I didn't know what it was till this morning.
I'm going to be right. It's going to be something like that. She's going to come out like that. She's going to walk it back. All her fans are going to be, oh, yeah, look, see, it's all okay. And then, I'm going to be right. But she's going to make it look like she didn't do anything wrong, but she did. She's backpedaling. I don't agree with Tim here. He calls her a blanking scumbag. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's all her fault. It's definitely not all her fault. There's a lot of other people that have caused the right to split. It's not just her. There's a lot of people, and I don't think it's for a bad reason per se either. Because I think it's the establishment more so. The establishment could have just been quiet. The establishment could have just straight up been quiet, and I don't think the right would have split. But they had a big push pro that country in the Middle East. We need to cancel anybody that's talking against it. That's what I think really caused it to split. But you could say both sides caused it to split. You can say whatever you want, but that was happening either way. Irregardless, that was happening because everyone was fighting over this country in the Middle East. And actually, if you want to really put who's to blame, it's the country in the Middle East. Because they started a war and you're being ridiculous about the war, and you're continuing to keep pounding and pounding and pounding this area over and over and over, pretending like they weren't doing anything wrong, thinking that somehow they're going to get away with it. And they're the ones that caused the right split. Basically. I mean, it's their fault. If you wanted to point to anybody, it's actually them. It is actually them. It's the country itself. The leadership of that country is what's caused the split. But that's my theory.
Okay, guys, it's over.
Eric, that's my video. I kind of want to see
God
what you think
bless.
in the comments section. Well, and thanks for watching.